All right, so apparently the notion these days with tournament fishing is that you need to have a good social media following for sponsors and potential partners to take notice of you. Uh, Apparently, it doesn't really matter too much on your tournament standings, which I have good tournament standings. I've got multiple top tens, etc. But a lot of these companies and people that can, or entities that can help you out as far as entry fees and lodging and fuel and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're paying attention to social media, which I guess they should because that's what pushes their product. And I've never honestly been really kind of up and up on that. I just focused on the fishing, and these days you have to really be accepting of the whole picture, which includes the social media stuff. So that's the reason for this video. This is going to be the first video that I'll upload on my YouTube account, and I'm going to give you guys a little glimpse of who I am, my background in tournament fishing and just fishing in general, my goals, my aspirations as far as how far I'm willing to take this, which if you ask me how far I'm willing to take it, you'll be surprised at how far I am willing to take this. Maybe not, because you hear the same type of story from a lot of anglers out there, like I did this, and this. Yeah, right, dude. I've watched a lot of them. I've dug into their profiles, and I would say mine is probably the more rare of the types of scenarios where these guys are willing to take it. So my name is Charles Soche. Everybody calls me Charlie. I come from just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been sick in the head and eaten up with bass fishing since I was a little kid, fishing with my dad, fishing with my dad's friends. I got really eaten up with it around the mid to late 90s. Pops took me to the Bassmaster Classic, the second to last one that they had down here in New Orleans when Gary Clown was shot at. Actually, I think that was the last one. I got to meet all the pros when I was just a little kid, and I've just been eating up with it ever since, and it led me down this path of like, this is all I want to do for a living. Now, I do have a great job at Coca-Cola United. Shout out to them. I've had great jobs in the past. I'm still really tight with my last job at Pugliz. They are a godsend to me nowadays, and they help me out a little bit with baits and this and that, and that's home base as far as either a company or a tackle shop goes. But I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they're my friends, and but I just wanted to give you guys an in-depth look of who I am starting this channel up. So just to get into it, I started tournament fishing in 2019, 2020. I bought my first real bass boat. I've been in a couple other boats, but I bought my first real bass boat in September of 2019. It was right before all the COVID and all that stuff happened. I entered my first BFL that was at Guntersville in 2019. It wound up being a super tournament, and after that I was already obsessed then, but after that, and after getting a glimpse of what it's really like, which you can say whatever you want to say about the BFLs, but that used to be the Red Man tournaments, dude. Those are real deal tournaments especially coming from New Orleans. I never got in cahoots with that. I wasn't familiar with that. And ever since then, I've just been eaten up with it even tenfold. And so around 2020, I kept on fishing tournaments, and I made a few regional championships for MLF. In 2021, I was driving freight trains for the Public Belt Railroad in New Orleans. I was making $40 an hour, great benefits. I had no time off. Without getting too negative about this post, if that company was not accepting me to take off for my tournaments, which I was on call 24/7, 365, night, day, weekend, holiday, it doesn't matter. and I had 10 vacation days a year that I could take, and I was doing 5 BFLs a year. I would take 2 days for each BFL, and that's all I used my vacation time on, period. Like, did not call off, I was that strictly just for my tournaments. So I would take 2 days per tournament. Being from New Orleans, it would be like, say, I was fishing like the Cowboy division, right? So I'd have to leave at midnight on that Thursday, drive through the night, pull up to the ramp Friday morning at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, go straight from that drive. It's about a 5, 6, 7 hour drive, straight into the boat to go practice for 1 day on these lakes that I've never been on. And my boat was bare bones. I had good mapping, but I didn't have the live scope and all that type of stuff. And I'm getting into that in a minute. I would practice for a day, sleep in my truck, compete that Saturday, and then drive home Saturday night. So I did that for a few years. And in 2021, I decided to abandon the railroad. And that was, a lot of people would be like, I can't believe you did that, but it just is what it is. I had to. I sold everything I owned. I owned a home in Marrero. I sold my house. I was building my other, not really passion, but my hobby on the side when I'm not doing tournaments is building hot rods and motorcycles and stuff. I had a 27 Model T. I had a 65 Triumph 650 motorcycle. I had stuff that I was building. I sold everything to do my tournaments. And my goal was to get into the Bassmaster Opens. At that time, you could do one division to potentially qualify to the elites. So my plan was, I'm just going to sell everything and hit the road and just focus on the Opens. Sold my house for not much. Basically, pay off, which it was an $85,000 house. Just to be completely transparent, it put $20,000 in my pocket. I sold my house, I sold my hot rod, I sold my motorcycle, I sold all kinds of stuff, and I went full bore. I quit my job at the railroad. I went full bore into it, and at that time, it was really hard. Even if, I stayed up that night when they opened up registration for the Bassmaster Opens. As soon as they opened it, I put my money in, blah, 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 blah. I was already 50 or 60 deep on the waiting list. And I did it like to the minute. I set my timer, I was to the minute. But you got to think, this is all lifetime members and previous qualifiers from last Opens. And so the Bassmaster Opens did not happen. So I wound up pulling my money back from that. They refunded me, thank God, for Bassmaster. And I went into the Toyotas for MLF. So I was thinking to myself, I'll do a division at the Toyotas. I've never been to these lakes before. I figured I'm going to fish Florida, because Florida, quote unquote, should be kind of how Louisiana is, and it's not. I got my teeth kicked in. My first tournament, I drove to Toho. It wound up being, you get on your phone, it says a 14-hour drive. It turns into 17 hours just because of the time change and traffic and this and that. Anyways, I drove down there, barely had, I got a little bit of money on me now, so I practiced for 3 days. I did not get bit in 3 days. I've never been to Toho. It had a massive cold front come through, high winds. It was just a very humbling experience. I caught one non-keeper in 3 days of practice. Get to Toho, and the lake at that time, the main lake of Toho, was chock full of hydrilla. I'm talking like, if your depth finder says 7 foot, 6 foot of it is chock thick hydrilla. Needless to say, I burnt my motor up, my water pump, in 2 days of competition, and needless to say, I scratched. I drove all that way, spent all that money, and scratched. And that was basically the 3 Toyotas that I fished was that, because I wasn't there yet mentally, and so that was super humbling. After that, that year, I pretty much, I made 20 grand stretch the entire year. I'm talking for bills, for my bill payments, for my boat payment, my boat payment, my truck payment. I wound up getting rid of, I had a brand new at the time, Silverado. I got rid of that and got a pickup truck from a new Nissan that I leased instead of bought to cut my note down from Nissan. Shortly after that, Hurricane Ida hit, and we were out of work. There was nothing to do. We're storm struck over here with a hurricane, and times got tough, and basically it laid upon me that I'm either going to get my boat repoed or my truck, which I didn't know, and it was a leased pickup. So they came and got the truck, and it scarred me financially with my credit and all that stuff. So now I got no truck. I have a boat that I can't use, and I'm still sick in the head with I'm gonna make this work. So I want to borrow my mom and dad's car to start doing some BFLs as a co-angler. And I wound up that was my first time being a co-angler, and I wound up doing pretty well. And I learned a lot doing that. And I think that was the same year that I did one division of the Bassmaster Opens as a co-angler as well. Learned a lot. I actually made some money. It was one of my best years fishing. And yeah, after that, it was it's one thing after another. And but I basically gave everything up to do this. And it's hard to stay on track of thought thinking about all this stuff, because a lot of times it was like pretty grim. Didn't really know what my next move was. Finding work was kind of impossible. I wound up getting into real estate and trying to be a real estate agent, thinking that I can make some bucks to be to get my stuff back on track, and it just didn't work. You have to force a smile. You have to essentially lie to people to be a real estate agent, which I'm not. It's just not for me. And I walked into Puglia Sporting Goods one day just looking for something to get me by, and they hired me. Thank God for Anthony and them, because I'll be honest with you, they kind of got my life back on track financially, getting hired over there. And so I did that for a while, wound up getting into a new truck. Well, not new to me, it was a used truck. I took a Tacoma, and so I kind of got things back on track, but I didn't have the money to fish. I barely had the money to fish my tournaments as a boater with the boat insurance and this and that. And I did do a few more tournaments as a boater, and I wound up cracking the top 10 at High Rock, which was awesome. But I did it to a point to where it was hard to hang on to the boat because I wasn't making too much money, and I'm still trying to work things out of how to do this. So I wound up having to get rid of my boat. I should have hung on to it, but hindsight's always 20/20, right? So I wound up getting a job at Coca-Cola now. It's a great job. I have enough now to I'm going to be getting into a new boat next month. Actually, now it's about 3 weeks. I got to go talk to them at Smith Motor Company in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I will be getting into an Express, but with my last boat, me and my family put a lot of money and time into it because I was getting my teeth kicked in at these tournaments as a boater, because that's when live scope and forward facing sonar and everything was really blossoming. And I thought that if I didn't have that, I couldn't compete. See, I was in my mind. I was too much in my head, and I wasn't focused at the task at hand. I was too focused because I was still learning at the time about what the other competitors have as opposed to what I can do with what I have. And it burned me. Well, fast forward to the High Rock tournament I told you about. We wound up getting Panoptics. That's what we could afford. And I did have Mega 360 and things like that on the boat at that time. And I was doing okay. But for that tournament, I didn't use any of it. I just used my mapping, and that was it. And it worked. And it was like a light bulb went off that you know what? I don't care what the other competitors have. I'm going to fish my strengths of what I want to do, and I know I can do well. And it took me a long time to realize that. It took me a long time and a lot of money to realize that, not just for me, but for my family. I'm not, I don't come from money. We don't, we're not rich or anything. So My next boat is going to be the one I'm going to put on order is going to be a new 2027 Express H18 with just mapping and the bare bones things I need to get into a boat, because interest rates these days on boats, I'm not a pro. I want to be a pro. I don't have boat deals. I can't just go up and buy a boat like these 19 and 20-year-old kids whose their tournament stats suck. I dig into them. I'm not going to get into it. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm not going to be that guy. But I am transparent. The interest rates these days are ridiculous on boats, but thank God for Smith Motor Company. They're working with me, and in 3 weeks I should be able to go over there and order my new Express. And I cannot wait to get back in the driver's seat and fishing the way I want to fish to my strengths. So my plan for 2027 is to fish the Bass Federation, or the Bass Nation now. And my goal is to get to the Classic, bar none. I mean, I know I can do it. I know I have the skill set. I just need the cards to line up and maybe get some help to get there financially. We'll see. But anyways, this social media stuff, the making the videos and all that, I'm not used to doing this, and I'm learning as I go. I'm doing it on an iPhone, but I'm transparent. I'm honest with you. You know, I had some sponsorship opportunities come up a while back, a few years ago, but the thing that they asked first and foremost, I had 2 meetings with 2 different companies. I'm not to disclose. They were umbrella companies that own other companies, if that gives you an idea. And the first thing they asked is, what's your social media presence? And I said, well, on Instagram, I'm looking at 15 or 1,800 followers. On Facebook, it's about the same. This is gonna be my first video on YouTube. And they were like, well, that's pretty low. I said, yeah, but you know, the engagement of my social media is higher than I bet a lot of other people's, because, and that's what I told them, is that, you know, I don't know if you guys realize this, but there are ways out there that you can pay money for followers. You know, you can pay a certain amount of money for 60,000 followers and 100,000 followers, even 1 million followers, even higher than that. I mean, look at Scott Martin stuff. I mean, it's astronomical amount of followers, you know, but the engagement between those followers is, I'll be honest with you, probably bupkis. And that probably goes for a lot of other anglers. And I like Scott Martin. I'm not putting him down or anything, but you have to look at the engagement of your followers to your profile. And a lot of companies, I think maybe now they are, but at that time they weren't really paying attention to that. And I know that because when I asked them, the 2 companies that I had meetings with, 2 or 3 companies, they were like, oh, we didn't really realize that. I was like, it's not just the followers, it's your engagement with them. Okay. Now, if a company does want to work with me, I will do everything I can to work with that company. I will push your product. I'll do my best to sell it. I'll make videos. I'll make posts, etc., etc. And I know they probably hear that a lot, but I'm letting you know that, you know, I've as far as tournament fishing goes, and a little bit of my life, it has come from dire straits at times, but that's not stopping me. I am going to get into another boat. It's all set up to get into another one in 3 weeks, and my plan is to fish the Federation and to crack their ass and get into the Classic. That's it. I mean, Swindle always talked about, you know, well, what's your plan? You know, what my plan is to execute plan A until I execute plan A, and that's what I'm doing. And if there may be times where I'll fall on some pretty hard times again, I'll just work through it, but that's my goal. So I don't know. I just wanted to give you guys this video of who I am as a fisherman, who I am as a person a little bit. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not sponsored. If I push a product on you or tell you about a specific technique, it's because it works for me. I know it'll at least help you, if not work for you. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can hit me up on my social media pages. Just look me up, Charlie Saucier, or Saucier Fishing, Saucier_fishing. That's SAUCIER. On YouTube. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, YouTube. I'm learning as I go with the social media stuff. I can skip a jig with the best of them, but as far as this goes, I'm still learning, so bear with me. I appreciate your time. as everybody says, please like, share, and subscribe, whatever. If you want to, that's cool. If not, I get it, dude. But yeah, so 2027, I'm ready. As far as the rest of 2026 goes, I am still a co-angler right now for MLF for the Cowboy division. I should have the points right now. I do have the points, I'm pretty sure, to make it to the championship. I've got a super tournament coming up in September for Rayburn. And then after that, I'm going to do my championship. And then after that, I'm going full bore into the Bass Federation stuff. And we'll see where it goes. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.